Should I be charmed by the fact the ticket is greeting me, or disturbed and paranoid that they have my details? Well, hello once again. This is Michael or Gallifreyan Avenger, and today I will be reviewing what else the next installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and quite arguably the most anticipated installment, Avengers Infinity War. Now, over the course of 10 years, we have been introduced to a plethora of characters ranging from different personalities to different abilities to what have you. And it has all been leading up to this, Infinity War, where all the little hints and little clues hidden throughout the various films, such as Infinity Stones, and Thanos, who makes his full appearance in this movie. He makes his proper debut, as opposed to sitting on the space throne in the little teases that we've gotten over the course of many of the films. He finally gets off his arse and, quite frankly, kicks ass. I mean, I was under the impression that Thanos was going to be just this generic big body with no discernible character depth or anything, but good God, was I mistaken. He is vicious in this, and you really feel the threat faced by the various Avengers. So, as I mentioned earlier, the Infinity Stones were scattered across the various films, and they served their ultimate purpose, I guess, here. The Space Stone, stored inside the Tesseract, was introduced in the first Captain America film, was inherited by S.H.I.E.L.D., was stolen by Loki in the Avengers to trigger the Chitauri invasion of New York, and became inherited by the Asgardians in the aftermath. The Mind Stone, stored inside Loki's scepter in the Avengers, was analysed by Stark and Banner, accidentally caused the rise of Ultron, and gave way to the birth of Vision, who is powered by the stone. The Reality Stone, or the Eater, was introduced in Thor 2, the most forgettable Marvel film in my opinion. It was sought after by the Dark Elves, and after they were vanquished, the Asgardians sold it to the Collector. The Power Stone was introduced to us in Guardians of the Galaxy, which came into the possession of Star-Lord, sought after by Ronan the Accuser, and ultimately went into the lockdown with the Nova Corps. The Time Stone was introduced to us in Doctor Strange, stored inside the Eye of Agamotto, Strange's pendant, that he protects in the New York Sanctum Sanctorum. And finally, the Soul Stone. No spoilers, but we're shown where it is and what happens in this film. And it's kind of interesting. Go see the film to see what I mean, but yeah, it all harks back to Thanos being given extra depth. Again, I mean, what were you expecting? A one-dimensional Marvel villain like we've seen countless amounts of times, or a fleshed out, really thought out character? I was so pleased it was the latter. Well, I don't know, based on those sort of phallic appearances he makes at the end of some of the films in the end credit sequence, sitting on a space throne thinking, I will get the Infinity Stones someday. Well, do it. Thankfully he does. I digress. Okay. What else? The characters. The characters are fine. I mean, to be honest, we have gotten enough development from them in their standalone films and various crossovers and collaborations, and they're fleshed out well enough. Something that the DC universe really need to catch on to. So, the plot. Yeah, the network narrative is hardly new to us. It has been used in other films. What I mean by network narrative is that there are 3 or 4 separate storylines with different groups of characters all dealing with their own problems. Like, for instance, you'll have Stark, Strange, Peter Parker, half the Guardians in one location, Thor and some of the other Guardians in another location, Black Panther, Captain America, Vision, Black Widow, and so forth in another location, and then Thanos doing his own thing in another location. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with the network narrative method, but in this film, when they're constantly jumping back and forth between the character groups, I constantly had to remind myself what happened in the previous scene with the previous group, as it were. It doesn't really take much away from the story. I mean, the story is like they really go all out with this. I mean, it's epic. The whole thing is epic, or at least that's what they masquerade it as. And, well, all because they're facing their most formidable foe yet, Thanos. The entire film was shot on an IMAX camera, which is pretty impressive, to be honest. I don't know, just having such dynamic range and bringing all the pixels to life, as it were. Can you tell I know about cameras? Fucking hell. I've never used an IMAX camera. Anyway, so the battle scenes are, again, pretty vivid and, again, epic. Particularly in one sort of incredible battle scene on the outskirts of Wakanda, where Black Panther and the Dora Milaje and the various other warriors from Wakanda, lovely alliteration, have to face off against the army of foot soldiers. I don't know what creatures they are, but they were like a zombie plague or something. But they're under the control of the Black Order, Thanos' affiliation, I guess, led by... what are their names again? Corvus Glaive, Proxima Midnight, Cull Obsidian, and Ebony Maw. These alien creatures. And by the way, Ebony Maw is played by Tom Vaughan Lawlor, or Nidge, from Love Hate. Those of you watching who are not from Ireland, Love Hate is a crime drama, and Tom Vaughan Lawlor plays this character called Nidge, and is just a fantastic actor. And he is fantastic as Ebony Maw. There's one particular line that Tony Stark used to describe him, and that got a big laugh from me. But even with the motion capture and the CGI to sort of capture the alien appearance of Ebony Maw, Tom Vaughan Lawlor, good God, he goes all out with this, and he is so sort of calculating and menacing, and I loved his character so much. And the same goes for Thanos. His presence is so commanding. I mean, that kind of goes without saying, but unlike the other one-dimensional Marvel villains that are just completely forgettable, he leaves an impression. Like, particularly when the film moves along and you see just the sheer stakes that are involved. And that's another thing that stands out from the rest of the other Marvel film. There are actual stakes now. It's kind of incredible in a way, given the fact that in the preceding 18 films, okay, there was a bit of threat and there was a couple of lingering wounds, especially after Captain America Civil War, where people are still a little sore after that, I guess. But for the vast majority of the Marvel films, there hasn't been any lasting stakes. So that's something I have to give kudos to this film for. Kudos to you, Russo brothers. I have loved every one of your films in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Winter Soldier is still my favourite. In Infinity War, it's impressive, but again, the whole network narrative and jumping back and forth between locations, between Earth, between the deepest reaches of space, between Titan, between various other locations that are just introduced to us in that film that we've never heard of before. It was a bit messy for me. It was cluttered as hell. But it was ambitious, I have to give it that. It was ambitious. Yeah, so that is Avengers Infinity War. I've been trying so hard to avoid spoilers, and I don't know if this review will suffer as a result because I'm being incredibly vague about it. But like with any film, it has its pros and it has its cons, so that's about it. I'm going to give Avengers Infinity War 3.5 stars out of 5. Because as I said, plot's a little bit cluttered. We've seen the sort of action set pieces before. They are ambitious, but, you know, it's fairly standard at this point. It's impressive, but it's not the best thing I've ever seen. Yeah, that's Avengers Infinity War. I did enjoy it. Go and see it, and you'll probably enjoy it as well. Thank you for watching. I have been Michael, or Gallifreyan Avenger, and until next time, see you soon. Take care.